In just a few moments' time, when we dive underwater, this submarine will become essentially invisible, undetectable to anyone.
The Virginia class is acoustically the stealthiest submarine that the U.S. Navy has ever produced.
Far below the crushing weight of the Atlantic Ocean, where sunlight fades into eternal darkness and even sound seems to vanish, something massive glides through the abyss. Built from millions of pounds of steel and decades of human brilliance, this machine was never meant to be seen or heard, only to rule the depths. Meet the USS Virginia, a predator made of nearly 8 million kilograms of steel, stretching 115 meters from bow to stern, armed with a deadly mix of a dozen missiles and about 30 torpedoes. She's not just a submarine, she's a ghost built for war beneath the waves. Her sister ship, the USS Colorado, measures 377 feet and dives beyond 800 feet below the surface, slicing silently through the deep at more than 25 knots. The story of the Virginia class began in the uneasy calm that followed the Cold War. The U.S. Navy faced a hard truth. Its next generation of attack submarines needed to evolve. The mighty Seawolf class had just entered service, an underwater juggernaut designed to hunt Soviet fleets. But at $3 billion each, it was a luxury the post-Soviet world no longer justified. So the Navy reimagined its future hunter, smaller, smarter, and more flexible. A vessel that could still dominate open oceans, yet slip undetected into shallow, contested coastal waters. Out of that vision was born the Virginia program, a new kind of attack submarine that could match the Seawolf's capability at a fraction of the cost. Early on, the Navy made a groundbreaking move. Instead of assigning construction to a single shipyard, two legends would share the task. Electric Boat in Groton, Connecticut, and Newport News Shipbuilding in Virginia would each build half of every submarine. Giant, pre-fitted sections, complete with piping, cables, and machinery, would be floated by barge between the two sites for final assembly. This dual-yard approach kept production steady, spread expertise, and ensured no single failure could stall the entire fleet. At Electric Boat, you can see this system unfold. Much of the steelwork starts farther north, at Quonset Point in Rhode Island, where immense plates are rolled into cylindrical segments of the pressure hull. While the hull rings remain open, workers install pumps, tanks, cables, and critical systems in the open air. No cramped spaces, no darkness. Later, those giant sections are rotated, aligned, and welded together like pieces of an enormous puzzle. This modular construction method became one of the key reasons the Virginia class stayed efficient, affordable, and on schedule. It was also the first American submarine ever designed entirely in 3D. There were no paper drawings stacked in offices, just a living digital model of the entire vessel. Every valve, cable, and pipe was represented virtually. If two components clashed, engineers saw it instantly, long before a single weld was made. That digital twin made upgrades seamless. New systems could be modeled, tested, and adjusted in virtual space before touching the real ship. And then came a revolution in how submariners see the world, the end of the traditional optical periscope. In its place, the designers installed photonics masts, sleek camera towers that transmit high-definition images through fiber optics instead of mirrors. Inside the control room, the difference was night and day. Instead of peering through a narrow metal tube, officers now command the horizon through panoramic digital displays. That change transformed the interior. Without the need to align everything under a periscope column, designers moved the control room deeper into the hull, wider, safer, and far easier to navigate. Even the controls evolved. The old helicopter-style joystick was replaced after sailors tested something familiar, simple, and surprisingly effective: an Xbox controller. It worked flawlessly, so the Navy adopted it. The Virginia's journey officially began on September 30th, 1998, when the contract was signed. Her keel was laid the following year in Groton. She first met the water on August 16, 2003, and entered active service on October 23, 2004, christened by Linda Bird Johnson Robb, daughter of President Lyndon B. Johnson. Inside, her beating heart is the S-9G nuclear reactor, powerful enough to last the entire lifespan of the ship. It generates steam to turn massive turbines, driving propulsion through a pump jet system instead of a traditional propeller. Picture a jet engine for water, smooth, efficient, nearly silent, fewer bubbles, less vibration, less noise, and in the silent world of submarine warfare, silence isn't just power, it's survival. Officially, the Navy admits these giants can dive beyond 800 feet and reach speeds of over 25 knots, around 29 miles per hour. But their true limits? Those numbers are locked away behind classified files. In the shadow world of submarines, sound is survival. Every inch of a Virginia-class boat, from bow to stern, is engineered around the art of listening. Early models carried a massive spherical sonar array in the nose, a round acoustic eye that could hear across miles of ocean. But as the design evolved, that sphere was replaced by the large aperture bow array, a curved, water-backed sensor shaped like a horseshoe, easier to maintain, sharper in detail, and tuned perfectly to the frequencies that matter most in modern warfare. Running along both flanks of the hull are long, wide aperture arrays, like enormous metallic ears stretched across the submarine's body, giving it a panoramic hearing field. Beneath the bow sits a smaller, high-frequency chin array used for navigation, close-in safety, and mine detection. Up in the sail, additional high-frequency sensors help the crew weave safely under ice or through cluttered shallows. Together, these systems create a kind of acoustic X-ray of the sea. They can pick out the faint rhythm of another ship's propeller, even when it's buried inside the ocean's endless background noise, all while keeping their own position secret. That flood of raw sound feeds into the submarine's brain, an open architecture combat system known as the AN/BYG-1. It's built for evolution, modular, upgradable, and designed to accept new software and processors on the fly. Instead of rebuilding hardware every few years, the Navy can simply install new code, new AI modules, or new digital tools. The result? A submarine that keeps learning, adapting as fast as the threats around it. When the time comes to strike, the Virginia relies on a heavyweight trusted by generations of submariners, the Mark 48 Advanced Capability Torpedo. Its latest upgrade, the Mod 7 Seabass system, introduced broadband digital sonar, giving the weapon exceptional accuracy in shallow waters and against modern decoys. Guided by a control wire during launch, it can be steered in real time before switching to autonomous mode to finish the kill. And just like the submarine itself, the Mark 48 keeps evolving. Software updates sharpen its mind even when its body stays the same. But torpedoes are just one part of the arsenal. From the beginning, the Virginia-class carried Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles. The earliest boats featured a dozen small vertical launch tubes near the bow. Later versions replaced those with 2 large payload tubes, each capable of holding 6 Tomahawks, ready to deliver pinpoint strikes from hundreds of miles offshore. Those missiles can travel roughly 1,000 miles, and the newest Block 5 variants add smarter guidance and a maritime strike seeker capable of hitting moving ships. One submarine, hidden beneath the waves, can reshape a battle hundreds of miles inland without ever being seen. But the biggest leap in firepower came with the Virginia Payload Module, a new 84-foot section added to Block 5 submarines. Inside that mid-body plug are 4 massive launch tubes, each able to hold 7 Tomahawks. That's 28 additional missiles on top of what's already stored in the bow. The modification pushes the sub's length to 461 feet and gives it a submerged weight of around 23 million pounds. Weapons and sensors are impressive, but what truly defines the Virginia class is how seamlessly those systems work together for missions that must remain invisible. Take the torpedo room, for example. It's modular, meaning it can transform. When needed, it turns into living space for special operations teams, complete with a lockout chamber that allows divers to exit and return underwater without the submarine surfacing. The same tubes that launch torpedoes can also deploy unmanned undersea vehicles, small robotic scouts that can explore, map, or plant sensors deep in hostile territory. Recent Navy trials show these drones can travel farther, stay submerged longer, and handle complex missions autonomously. It's the future of underwater warfare, stealth, intelligence, and precision, all rolled into one machine. Every mission depends on silence. Every vibration, every sound, every pulse of machinery is carefully controlled. Each pump sits on vibration mounts to stop sound from leaking into the hull. Bolts are tightened to exact tolerances so nothing rattles. Even daily routines, from footsteps to conversations, are designed to keep the boat undetectable. Aboard of Virginia, about 140 sailors live inside that steel world, roughly 18 officers and over 100 enlisted crew. They share the same narrow corridors, eat, work, and sleep within a few hundred feet of a nuclear reactor and the ocean's crushing pressure. Deployments stretch up to 6 months, with intense training before and heavy overhauls after. Inside the sonar room, the lights stay dim. Operators sit in near darkness, headphones pressed tight, parsing through endless waves of sound, searching for the faintest trace of another vessel. Meanwhile, in the control room, the navigation team makes constant adjustments, guiding the submarine through the deep with quiet precision. Down there, success isn't marked by a kill or a detection. It's marked by no one ever knowing you were there. Before the Virginia took its first dive, another submarine class laid the foundation for this era of silent warfare, the USS Los Angeles. Born in the 1970s, during the height of the Cold War, the Los Angeles class was America's answer to Soviet undersea expansion. Fast, quiet, and durable, it became the backbone of the Navy's attack fleet. The first, USS Los Angeles, joined the fleet in 1976. Over the next 2 decades, 62 boats were built, more than any other nuclear-powered attack submarine in U.S. history. The shift was cultural as much as technical. Until then, submarines were named after sea creatures: sharks, barracudas, swordfish. But starting with the Los Angeles class, they bore the names of American cities: Los Angeles, Dallas, Miami, Boston, linking each vessel to the people who built and supported it. Admiral Hyman Rickover, the visionary behind the nuclear navy, summed it up with a simple line that became legend: "Fish don't vote." On paper, the Los Angeles class never looked glamorous. Each hull ran roughly 360 feet long, 33 feet across at the beam, and displaced nearly 7,000 tons when submerged. Publicly, the Navy only ever confirmed 2 numbers: a dive capability beyond 650 feet and submerged speeds above 25 knots, about 29 miles per hour. The true performance figures, though, have always been kept secret. At the heart of every Los Angeles boat sat a nuclear pressurized water reactor, a compact power plant that turned water into steam and steam into near unlimited endurance. The only thing that routinely forced these subs home was food. They arrived in evolutionary waves the Navy called flights, each one layering new capability onto the same core mission: find, track, and, if necessary, eliminate the target. Flight 1, the baseline design through the early 80s, established that mission profile. Up front were 4 torpedo tubes for heavyweight torpedoes and other ordnance, and the Mark 48 emerged as the class's staple weapon. Over time, its sensors and software were improved, sharpening the torpedo's performance without changing the hardware, a key reason the class remained lethal without costly overhauls. Then came Flight 2, which added a dramatic new feature after the first 31 boats, a bank of 12 vertical launch tubes in the bow. Suddenly, these submarines could fire Tomahawk cruise missiles vertically rather than using torpedo tubes. That modest change expanded their reach enormously. When the Gulf War began in 1991, Los Angeles-class boats were among the first to launch Tomahawks, striking precise land targets from hundreds of miles away while remaining invisible beneath the waves. The final generation, the improved boat sailors call 688EY, tightened the class into a far more capable package. The diving planes moved from the sail to a retractable bow-mounted design so the boats could operate under Arctic ice. The sail itself was reinforced for ice operations. Machinery was better isolated to reduce noise, and combat systems were modernized. None of those tweaks was flashy from the outside, but together they made the class quieter, tougher, and far more suited to the world's harshest environments. Weapons stayed straightforward and dependable. The Mark 48, upgraded to the ADCAP family and later to Mod 7C SEABASS, gained digital sonar processing and software that let it hunt in both deep ocean and shallow coastal waters. Because those improvements were software-driven, crews and yards could refresh capability across the fleet quickly. For land strikes, Tomahawks became indispensable. Subs carried a mix of cruise missiles and torpedoes depending on mission needs, launching the missiles either from vertical tubes or from torpedo tubes as required. They could also lay mines when ordered to seal off a choke point. Life aboard was intense and extremely close-quartered. A typical crew ran roughly 16 officers and about 127 enlisted sailors, roughly 140 people squeezed into a machine the length of a city block. These were designs born before digital control rooms and panoramic camera masts. Sailors peered through optical periscopes, read analog dials and gauges, plotted contacts on paper charts, and spoke in low voices over the constant hum of machinery. The control room was hot, noisy, and claustrophobic. Operators learned to extract the faintest signals from relentless background noise, to rely on training and instinct, and to perform by muscle memory. The work demanded grit. The living spaces were cramped, but the crews were also among the Navy's most disciplined. That discipline is what let these submarines vanish for half a year at a stretch and return exactly when and where they were expected. The class had a rare public spotlight that underscored its importance. On May 27, 1977, President Jimmy Carter, himself a former nuclear submariner, went to sea aboard USS Los Angeles with Admiral Rickover. Los Angeles-class boats deployed from Norfolk, San Diego, Pearl Harbor, and Guam. They shadowed foreign submarines, collected sensitive intelligence, escorted carrier groups, and ran surveillance missions, many of which will likely remain classified. Decades on, their legacy still shapes Navy doctrine. By the mid-2000s, the earliest boats were retiring, and decommissioning accelerated. Yet the class didn't vanish overnight. As of 2025, around 23 Los Angeles-class submarines remain active, still a major component of America's attack submarine force alongside newer Virginias. And now, looking forward, meet the submarine built for the mid-century fight, SSNX, the Next Generation Attack Sub. The goal is ambitious. One platform that does everything the Navy has ever wanted: sprint like a racer, hit like a heavyweight, remain ghost quiet, and stay on station longer than any sub before it. That dream already has a name, SSNX. Picture it as the Navy's next-generation predator beneath the waves. The goal? Combine the raw speed and firepower of the old Seawolf class, the stealth and cutting-edge sensors of the Virginia class, and the durability of the Columbia subs, all fused into one lethal machine. It's an ambitious mix, but that's exactly what the SSNX aims to deliver. Right now, it's still just a design. No steel in the water yet. The Navy originally hoped to start construction around the mid-2030s, but that timeline has slid closer to 2040. Not because the project's in trouble, it's simply a matter of money and limited shipyard space. With Columbia and Virginia builds already underway, the schedule had to stretch. Still, funding for design work remains strong, and progress is moving full speed ahead. Here's what we know so far. The SSNX will be bigger than the Virginias, and possibly even larger than the mighty Seawolf. It's expected to displace around 10,000 tons underwater, massive, even by submarine standards. The Navy pegs the cost near $7 billion per sub, but the Congressional Budget Office thinks it could climb to $9 billion. Either way, we're looking at one of the most expensive war machines ever built. So, what exactly makes this sub so special? The Navy has 4 key goals, 4 things no attack submarine has ever managed to combine. First, it needs to be fast and silent at the same time. Normally, those two don't go hand in hand. The faster you move, the louder you get. But SSNX is designed to break that rule, cruising swiftly through the ocean while blending its noise into the natural hum of the sea. Second, it's getting a huge boost in firepower. More torpedo tubes, expanded missile storage, and larger compartments for future weapon systems we haven't even seen yet. Third, it must be able to operate alongside uncrewed submarines, robotic drones that can scout ahead, map dangerous waters, and deploy decoys or sensors while the main sub stays hidden. And fourth, it has to spend more time on patrol and less time in maintenance. The Navy's aiming for easier repairs, smarter layouts, and stronger materials so the boat can stay mission-ready far longer. But here's the real twist. SSNX isn't just built to hide, it's built to dominate. It's meant to control the underwater battlefield through deception, sound manipulation, and timing, turning the ocean itself into part of its defense system. Those large-diameter launchers being planned? They're not random. Other U.S. platforms, like the Zumwalt destroyers and future Virginia subs, are being modified to carry hypersonic missiles, weapons that fly multiple times faster than sound. SSN open parenthesis X. Close parenthesis is being designed from day one to launch those same missiles. When that technology matures, it'll already be ready. Another major leap comes from how this sub will handle information. It'll pull in real-time data from satellites, aircraft, surface ships, and even drones, all while staying deep underwater. To do that, it'll need faster computers, smarter antennas, and an open software system that can evolve over time, much like a smartphone or gaming console update. That's the big idea. Make SSNX a platform that can adapt and upgrade, not one that becomes outdated after a decade. You'll be able to swap out electronics, install new systems, and update its software without tearing the entire ship apart. Meanwhile, Congress keeps close tabs on the project, but the funding hasn't slowed. Every year, hundreds of millions flow into design and research to keep engineers and builders sharp. There's even been some talk about changing the reactor fuel to a low-enriched version, which could make nuclear tech easier to share with allies. But the Navy quickly shut that down, saying it would make the reactor bulkier, reduce performance, and add billions in cost and decades in delay. So SSNX will stick with the same high-energy uranium already used in today's fleet, fuel that lasts the entire lifetime of the sub without ever needing a refill. The biggest risk now? Overreaching. The Navy's learned the hard way that chasing every new idea can drive costs out of control. This time, they're staying focused on what truly matters, because the oceans are changing fast. Rival nations are filling them with sonar arrays, undersea drones, and sensors that can catch even the faintest sound. Aircraft can now spot a periscope's wake almost instantly. Just hiding isn't enough anymore. Submarines have to outthink the sensors, not just dive deeper. That's the world SNX is being built for. It's not here to replace the Virginia class. Those will remain the fleet's backbone for decades, but to lead the next chapter in undersea warfare. Thanks for watching, and if you love stories like this, check out the videos popping up on your screen right now. You won't want to miss what's next.